For reaction from the Australian government, we're joined by the Agriculture Minister, Barnaby Joyce. He joins us this morning from Tamworth. Minister, good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Very well, thank you. A few issues to get through this morning. Let's start with the fate of those two Australians on death row in Indonesia. Do you believe all avenues of appeal are basically falling on deaf ears and the worst will happen with these two sometime over the next few weeks?
Well, while there's life, there's hope, and we'll keep on working as hard as we possibly can as a nation, and through the Department of Foreign Affairs and through diplomatic channels and from the highest level of the Prime Minister's office to make sure that compassion is the virtue that is so pronounced at this time. As I've always said, Michael, the criminal you catch is not the human being that you kill, and what you have at the end is a terrified person, and there is nothing, I think, that is to be gained from that. There is no benefit to it, and let's always apply the greatest energy to our better angels, and they reside with compassion.
What do you say to that argument put forward quite forcefully last night by the Indonesian Foreign Minister that this is not about nationalities, it is simply about enforcing Indonesian law?
Well, we have to all respect that Indonesia is a sovereign country, and you can implore, you can try to convince, but you can't instruct. You can't instruct another nation what they do in their own land, and in fact it would be counterproductive to the greatest extent to start moving from debate and from discussion to one of instruction, because then the communication channels would break down completely. And
on that front, if the worst happens and various avenues of retaliation are being discussed regarding the Australian government, as a minister with very strong ties to the Indonesians' care of your portfolio, what course of action do you believe is likely? How should the Australian government register its protest if those two men are indeed executed?
Well, that's outside my pay scale. I'll certainly be part of that discussion, but to say anything now would be, I think, counterproductive, and the last thing we want to do is start talking about threats, because that is a completely different register to what we wish to have this issue dealt with, and which is on compassion. It's got to be done on compassion, it's got to be done on logic, it's got to be done on the fact that we believe in the redemptive capacity of a human being to understand that what they did was wrong, and to turn around and to try and go in a different direction.
Okay, now let's go to your portfolio and to that Greyhound racing story. We have dozens of trainers, Barnaby Joyce, and staff suspended right around the country. In Queensland alone, 70 dogs have been seized. Is this an industry in disgrace?
Well, the industry itself is making sure that it's at the forefront, saying that it finds the actions completely reprehensible and needs to be fixed. And I'm happy that they have decided to really be part of the solution. It's also a strong role for the police and the RSPCA, and they're also part of this process. And no one's condoning the actions that we saw and we hear about. This is completely out of bounds, and once more as a sign of a lesser approach to how you deal with issues. We are not going to have sort of the barbarous treatment of other animals as a mechanism for inspiring a dog to run faster.
But doesn't this show that self-regulation hasn't worked, Barnaby Joyce? And these separate inquiries in some states are still involving the industry. Shouldn't an independent organisation take an arm's length view of just what's been going on Greyhound racing tracks?
Well, people do have the RSPCA, the police, they do have the capacity to, if they believe a crime is being committed, to go and investigate it. That's exactly what happens, and the industry itself has billions of dollars of reasons as to why they want to have a better image, and this latest attention they've got on the use of live animals is not the image they want, and it's not the image that attracts money and investment into the sport of greyhound racing.
The ABC has identified a former integrity manager, an integrity manager from Greyhound Racing Victoria, as being involved in trading sessions involving live bait. Does that suggest to you, Minister, this is a systemic problem we're dealing with?
Well, as long as we're hearing about him, we're obviously finding out. We have a mechanism of getting to the bottom of these issues. Because you hear about a person who's committed that act, then I'm sure the police have the capacity to investigate that act, or the RSPCA have the capacity to investigate that act, and if actions need to be taken against him, like any person in any field who works outside the confines of the law, then they are dealt with, whether that's a doctor who works outside the confines of the law, or an accountant, or a mechanic. All industries and all facets, if somebody breaks the law, then they get investigated by the law.
Should Greyhound racing be suspended while these various inquiries are carried out?
No, I don't know whether that is that is the answer. I don't think that it's a case of finding the people who've done a criminal act, or if there is a criminal act, or have done the wrong thing. I am always a little bit cautious about saying, because we find a problem, therefore we close down an industry. I don't think that's the way we should be doing business. Because you find a problem, you fix a problem. You don't close down the industry.
And speaking of industries, let's go to the food importation industry and that hepatitis A scare surrounding those frozen berries from China. Should there be tougher controls on, firstly, the importation of these type of product and also the labelling of them?
Well, that might be the consequence of a review that's currently being taken underway right now. Can I just quickly go through the process so that your listeners clearly understand? The Food Standards Australia and New Zealand are the ones who determine whether a product is high risk or low risk. They then make that recommendation to the Department of Agriculture on how they test, whether it's 100% or in this case 5%. And the form for what we are testing, which for low risk ones is predominantly residues such as cadmium. If there is a reason for something to go from low risk to high risk, then the health ministers get together and change the requirements for that, and increase the surveillance that they asked the Department of Agriculture then to undertake. So that review is happening right now. The health ministers are discussing this issue right now. My meeting with Senator Nash, who has responsibility, was last night in regards to this issue. So as this issue has come to light, we have made sure that we're on our front foot and trying to deal with it. In regards to labelling, I think that this is an issue. We have to strengthen our labelling laws, and we currently have a review before us which I believe needs to be stronger than what it actually came into my office on. I want to make sure that people can clearly identify when they go to the shop a genuine Australian product, because we do have stronger phytosanitary laws. We do have stronger oversight to make sure we have a cleaner, greener product than what comes in from overseas. And that's why you pay a premium for Australian product, and that's why Australian product is a better product. And I want to make sure that when you pick up something, Michael, you can look at the can and say, this is Australian, it's slightly dearer, but by gosh, it's safer.
Can you change the terms of that review?
Well, that's why I didn't accept it in its former sense when it came in. I said, okay. No, we want to tighten this up.
Let's go to, before you leave, matters within the coalition. There has been lots of commentary over the last few days about that appearance on Q&A by your cabinet colleague Malcolm Turnbull. Did you see that as a 60-minute long job application by him?
Well, as you know, I was on the first Q&A. I don't think anybody saw mine as a 60-minute job application, or unless it's a very peculiar job. Look, you've got to put your best foot forward and try to present to the Australian people the package which is the coalition. And I'm glad we got Malcolm as a communications minister. He's extremely capable. He's run a very strong business in his own life, and now he's got a massive business to try and get control the costs of and get delivery of, which is the NBN. We have to, as a coalition, make sure that we're talking about the business that really concerns people, and you're doing that this morning with the issues such as the importation of berries and the phytosanitary issues. I think that everybody, it'd be rather peculiar if you went on to Q&A and tried to do a bad job.
Well, that's true, I suppose, and you pop up a fair bit. And just finally, just quickly before you go, as a member of the coalition leadership team, I know it's a different party, what did you make of the sacking of Philip Ruddock as government whip?
Well, Philip has had and continues to have a long and distinguished career, starting right back in the early 70s. I've got to also support Scott Buckholt, who used to be my Chief of Staff. I mean, Scott has also got great credentials in this area. So, I just think this is... part of the normal transition that happens in any organisation. Michael, if I come back in 4 decades' time and find you on the couch, I'd be rather surprised.
I can make that ironclad guarantee to you now, Barnaby Joyce, you won't find that. Thank you very much for your time from Tamworth this morning.